Hey guys, back with another video. A video on true endings, a discussion on true endings. I was supposed to do this like weeks, or actually maybe even months ago. I mentioned it in a previous video, but I just didn't have the time. I hadn't had the time to do it, but now I'm doing it. It's probably going to be a shorter video. The reason I bring this up, true endings, is when I was playing Drakengard 3. It got me thinking about true endings and how, even though I like the idea of a true ending, especially in games with multiple endings or with a couple, that there's one ending that you got to get to see the true, the true end of the story. I like the idea behind it. I just find a lot of games do it so poorly, in my opinion. And Drakengard 3 is a good example. In that game, to get the true ending, there's four endings. The first three endings were fine, where they were on different branches and you went through different missions to do them. If you did branch A, branch B was unlocked and you completed missions during that branch. You got to branch C. But once you got to branch D, it basically locked you out of it by saying, oh, you got to get all the weapons before you have access to this branch to see the true ending of the game, which is so stupid. It's like such a dumb way to increase the game's length. It just makes no sense at all why you would have to get all the weapons to get to this next branch. It's just this arbitrary way of extending the game, and I think a lot of people would probably look at that and be like, well, fuck this, I'm just going to watch the ending on YouTube. So they're not going to experience the ending for themselves and see Branch D's missions. And I find a lot of games do this with their true endings, where they're locked behind some either arbitrary way to get to them, or they're locked behind something so obscure to figure out that you have to resort to the internet. A good example here is Persona 4. Now, I'm a huge fan of Persona 4. It's one of my favorite games, or favorite RPGs of all time. But the one complaint I have with that game is how obtuse it is to get that true ending, where you come to a certain point in the game where you have to answer a specific set of questions, and you have to get your answers have to be right. They have to be what the game intends for you to answer. And if you get them wrong, you get this bad end, the credits roll, and then it allows you to save the game and start over. Now, I think most people are probably going to get to this like I did and think to themselves, oh, this doesn't seem right. This ending is it just doesn't seem right. So I had to go on the internet to check because I was so confused. I was just like, what the fuck's going on here? And sure enough, oh, you got to answer these questions in a very specific order to access the rest of the game, and you miss out on so much if you don't get that true ending in Persona 4. That's another thing that I just hate. Why have the true ending locked behind such a stupid, like, all these choices that I highly doubt most people are going to get through that on their first try. Like, it's just pure trial and error. And even Shin Megami Tensei 4, as much as I love that game, there's the law, chaos, and neutral ending, but there's also like a bad ending, and a lot of people just were fine with getting the bad ending because you have to fulfill certain requirements to get the other endings. So even that I kind of hate. I think if a true ending is in your game, among some other endings, it should be pretty obvious what you're supposed to do to reach that true ending. Too many games have such obscure ways to get these true endings. I'm sure there's other examples. Those are just the ones off the top of my head. What are some games you guys have played that have a really terrible way to get to the true ending? And like I said before, I don't mind true endings. I think a lot of the times, it's nice to have that. I'll think of good examples. For instance, Virtue's Last Reward. Now, I do want to talk, like, 999 is another game that I think does the true ending in a bad way, where there's 6 endings, 5 of them bad, and the true ending is the one you got to go for. You can't get it on your first playthrough. You just can't. You have to get it on a second playthrough. And what you have to do to get to this true ending is fucking ridiculous. Like, I'm sure some people might have figured it out, but I don't see how most people would figure the shit you have to do to get to that true ending. It is a pain in the ass. And that brings me to another complaint, where you have to play the entire game over again every time you want to get to a different ending. Again, like, I love multiple endings. I love games with multiple endings, but don't make me replay the entire game to access these multiple endings. unless things are changing drastically depending on the ending you're going for. It's really annoying. And thankfully, Virtue's Last Reward fixed this, where there's like what 24 endings, but you can just jump back to certain things in the different timelines, and you get endings really fast, and it's pretty obvious how to get to the true ending, because of that chart, that flow chart you've got, which is excellent. And you know, I've been thinking of that. Like, the more I think about it, I think Virtue's Last Reward is actually a better game than 999. I used to not think that way, but more and more I started to think VLR I like better. Chrono Trigger is a good example of a game that the true ending is. I think most people on the first playthrough are going to get that true ending. It's pretty straightforward to get to that true ending. But at the same time, there's all these other alternate endings that you can get, and a lot of them aren't very obvious. But at least that true ending is, you know, it's obvious to get to that. You're not going to have any problems. So yeah, I think generally I'm fine with true endings. It's just stop making them so hard to get. And it's not really a matter of difficulty. Like it's just always these obtuse requirements. But that's about it. I figured this was going to be a short video. I just wanted to talk about it because Drakengard 3 really got on my nerves with how you got the true ending. But anyways, what games have you guys played where you hated what you had to do to get to the true ending, or what are some examples of some games that do a true ending well? But that's it, guys. I want to thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.